Okay, so good to see everybody. Tonight we're going to be talking more about stages of meditation and using a particular practice, using mantra to do particular practice and so on. So last time we did the seven uh, the seven chakras, the seven chakra practice. So we're looking at different practices that we can do for our meditation practice. So to familiarize yourself with these. So Vajrasattva is very important, and tonight we'll have an introduction to that. We use it a lot during when the lamas are here, when we're all together, and so on, and when there needs to be a purification that we recite this particular mantra. So we'll talk more about it. First, I want to start with the opening prayers. So if you don't mind, if you have your books, we'll go to page one, the altruistic motivation. So if whatever book you have, you should be able to find that. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dangwar je pe dra no par je pe ge. Tar pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo par je pa tam she ki so je pe. Ma nam ka tam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dug now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dag par zog pe zhang zhu brin po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deshe du sang ma ge ki bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Next page is a long refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcends awa danger parje pe pal dan lama dam pa nam la kyab su chio. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kyab su chio. Sange chom den de nam la kyab su chio. Dampe cho nam la kapsu chio. Parpege du nam la kapsu chio. Pawo kadro cho kyung song mei song yeshe gi chang dang dam pa nam la kapsu chio. Taking the Bodhisattva vow. Until enlightenment is reached, until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shangju Ningpo Chiki Bar Sangye Namla Kapsu Chi Chodang Shangshu Sampayi Soklang Deshin Kapsu Chi Jitar Nongi Deshegi Shangshu Tugni Ke Padang Shangshu Sempe La Pala De Dagrim Shin E Patar De Shendro La Pendandu Shangshu Samni Ke Gishin De Shindu Ni La Pala Rinpa Shindu La Pajio. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam La Shangju Bardu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Ki Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pe sem chen tam she de wadang de we gurdang dembar jorchi. Dug now dang da now gi gu dang dwell war jorchi. Dug now me pe de wadang vi dwell war jorchi. Ne ring jack dang ni dang dwell way dang nam la ne pa jorchi. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments that you want to make about anything that we've been talking about thus far? last week, or anything come to your mind? Okay, very good. So then we are going to we're talking about stages of the meditation stages. That's what we've been doing this whole past number of weeks. This is the seventh of our 8 classes. So the prior 6 had to do with different facets of developing a practice for ourselves. Um, the opening prayers, that which we just recited, would really be a really solid beginning to start developing a daily practice. If you only have 15 minutes or 20 minutes that you can dedicate the morning or the afternoon or the evening time, whatever, by reciting these would be a really important thing to do. And if you've got the mala beads, if you've got the time, if you can take one prayer at a time, maybe you start with the short refuge practice. You start with that, and you do a mala round, a whole mala round of reciting that prayer, both in English and in Tibetan. So, one day you can do Tibetan, one day you can do English, vice versa. But if you do that over a period of, say, 4 or 5 straight days, you will memorize that particular prayer. And then you can move on to another prayer. And you find that that's how you build up a practice, by starting with these prayers. So these prayers, of course, are motivation, why we do practice in the very first place, why we learn about the Dharma in the very first place, and so on. So this is setting our motivation in order that we may be able to help other beings, that we're selflessly bringing this into our lives so that we can help other beings. So these prayers are a cornerstone, or the foundation, really, of being able to develop a practice. It also gives us great confidence that once we learn one of these prayers, when we memorize one of these prayers, we get this sense of achievement of, wow, I'm really doing something. I'm really learning something, and I'm being able to learn something. Here I am in my middle ages or whatever, and I'm doing something that I haven't done in a very long time, and that is to learn something really, really new that's really going to help me and is going to help many other people. So it gives us that sense of accomplishment. Once we do one of those prayers and we move on to the next, like I said, and you really develop that confidence. And in that confidence comes this one-pointed mindfulness, that we're able to focus on one thing. So as we're memorizing these prayers, we're concentrating on the meaning, we're concentrating on the sound vibration, because when we do it in English, our native language, we're learning it as a meaning, and the words and the phrases and the meanings connect to each other. But when we do it in the Tibetan or the Sanskrit, depending on which prayer it is, that we're doing it in that language, and there is a melody to it, and there's a vibration to it. And that really is fundamental in being able to connect viscerally in our heart center with the Dharma. These prayers come down from hundreds and hundreds of years, 1,000 years, almost 2,000 years ago, these prayers come from. So as we are reciting them in the native language, in the Tibetan language or the Sanskrit language, we're connecting with it in that vibration. And that vibration then really carries you. That's that one-pointed mindfulness. We're not thinking about it. We're not thinking intellectually about the meaning of it, but we are viscerally connecting with it. And that is very powerful. So the more that you do these prayers, and if you do them, as we say, to memorize them, and you do a whole mile around, you will come away being charged up with the vibration of each of these syllables. And these vibrations are continuing in this phenomenal nature. It's all part of that. and leads us to the connection with that is the absolute nature, which is beyond our intellectual capability to be able to comprehend it. So this is how we develop this one-pointed mindfulness that leads us to this spiritual connection with the non-conceptual, with the non-dual, with the absolute nature that we are all a part of. So this next prayer is a prayer of it's the what we say the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva through confession, that we're purifying ourselves through confession, that there's many things that we do without realizing it that are hurtful in some way to ourselves, hurtful to somebody else, leads us down a misconception of ideas, that we think we're doing the right things, but we're just following something that is full of convention that doesn't have a real honest meaning to it, doesn't have a truthful meaning to it. What we've been trying to do is to get to something that is this truth body. And this truth body is, again, it's beyond our comprehension. So these conventional thoughts that we have are all about all these peripheral things. Oh, it means this. No, it means that. Oh, it means something else, and so on. So these contrived ideas that we have sort of agreed upon, which are more or less rationalizations about how we behave as human beings and so on. So by connecting with these prayers, by these mantras, we're connecting with something that is beyond that is transcendent of our conventional thinking. So this is it may sound a little crazy, but when you engage in this and you do this with a heartfelt commitment, and you're by yourself and you do this in a group, it's one thing, it supports you. But when you do this by yourself and you're in your own room and you're using your voice and you're using your voice at an elevated level, it's a loud voice, it's not a whispered voice, you're vibrating with that, and you do a whole mile around, you will feel a difference. You will literally feel that vibration. And then you might get a little spacey. You might get a little buzz in the process. And that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to transcend our ordinary mindfulness. So this is the process of the practice working in our lives and so on. And then what we find is that we have these like epiphanies, we have these aha moments, that the meanings of the prayers and the mantras and everything, we start thinking about them, applying them to this vibration, and we see that we are going through a process of purification. That we're cutting through these rationalizations, these conventions that we've been taught to lead in our lives and so on. And it's like taking something apart and then putting it back together again and realizing that some of those parts weren't necessary. Some of those parts were just slowing us down. They were impeding us. They were confusing us and so on. So what we wind up doing is kind of streamlining what we took apart. And we streamline it as we put it back together again. And the streamline is our intellectual brain making a connection with our heart brain, our heart thoughts and our brain thoughts coming together, which is completing our mind, seeing the mind of being a human being, what that means, what that leads to, and so on. So here it's all intellectualization, but here there's a spirituality. And when we can bring that intellectualization into connecting with the spirituality, really great things begin to happen. This is where we purify ourselves. This is where we become more relaxed, where we become happier, when we become less emotional, because we see the seeds of what it is that makes us emotional, makes us confused, and we're able to guide ourselves through them. Instead of being enslaved by them, we're able to control those emotions. We're able to control our thoughts. We're able to develop that one-pointed mindfulness. So it's a process. So by allowing ourselves to engage in the process in this system that we call Buddhism, the system of the Dharma and so on. So if we intellectualize it, there's a benefit there, understanding what it all means. But when we can have that have that experience of the vibration of that is beyond the intellectualization, that's what we're really trying to go for. So I'm encouraging you to develop a practice. Develop the practice by beginning with these prayers, memorizing these prayers, establishing a routine, and so on. So now we come to the part now where we realize that we have all these defilements, we have all these confusions, we have all these misdeeds, and the results of all those misdeeds kind of compound, and they kind of stay within us, and they kind of pull us down figuratively, to say that we're not thinking clearly. We don't understand some of these subtle things that are causing our blockages, causing our emotions, causing us to hold on to these wrong views, to hold on to our egos, to hold on to our hatreds and our desires and so on, and not want to purify them, to clear them away. The emotions are there for a particular reason. It's important to have emotions as a human being because they are a form of protection. They protect us from our fears, not doing something that is too rash, too irrational, that may cause us harm or cause other people harms. They're like warning signs for us, our emotions. But the problem is we hold on to them too close, and we think that this is, a vital part of being a human being. We don't see that these emotions are something that need to be compartmentalized, need to be understood, and need to be controlled. Otherwise, they control us. So by purifying, by recognizing what the causes of our emotions are, and then applying the antidotes, and we've talked about that, the 5 poisons, the 5 antidotes, and the 5 wisdoms that come as a result of that. We've talked about that in past classes in Buddhism 101. So now we're really getting down to actually engaging in that purification. So this 100-syllable mantra, which is all in Sanskrit, by the way, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to purify ourselves through 4 powers. These 4 powers are these 4 powers of purification of Vajrasattva. Vajrasattva is a Buddha. So all the Buddhas are within ourselves. You've heard me say that many times. We have our true nature, our diamond nature, and we have many different aspects, and each one of those aspects is an activity of our Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is bodhicitta, and each one of those activities has a name to it. So this particular purification, this Buddha of purification, is Vajrasattva. So Vajra in Sanskrit means indestructible, very, very strong. And that's how we get this diamond nature. The diamond is regarded as the hardest of all the minerals. And nothing can cut this diamond. Nothing can hurt this diamond except another diamond. But so it has a connotation of being indestructible. So this diamond, indestructible nature is this Vajra. is what the Vajra means. And what it, the essence of what it is wisdom. This wisdom of the Dharma, this wisdom of our Buddha nature, of our true nature. So by being able to realize that we do things that are contrary to our truth, we're doing things that are defilements, and then when we recognize that we do these things that are hurtful to ourselves or hurtful to someone else, we need to have remorse for them. We need to be able to recognize, oh, I did something, I made a mistake, I said something, I actually did something. I'm sorry for that. And I really don't want to do it again. And so that's the first step. That's the first of the four powers, is recognizing that we make mistakes and that we have remorse for those mistakes. We take responsibility for those mistakes. So the second of the four powers is to apply a remedy to that defilement, to that thing that we did, whatever it is, that thought we may have had, action we may have had, words that we said, something like that. There's a remedy for it. And we learned what the remedies were. We learned that for each of the five poisons, there was a particular antidote to that poison. So, for instance, in ignorance, the antidote to ignorance is education. If we learn about what we don't know, then we bring light to what is darkness. So we went through that, and you can look that up and see the five poisons and the five remedies. So this remedy to a particular event that happened in our lives, and maybe it's a combination of things. It's maybe not one thing. It may be several things combined together. But through our process of thinking about this, of allowing ourselves to contemplate this, we begin to identify all these things, you see, and we've been learning a vocabulary about how to view these things. So for a event that we do, there is a remedy. We have remorse, and we apply the remedy to be able to do that, to be able to overcome that, to purify ourselves. The next thing is to resolve ourselves not to do this again. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to do. We say, oh, I'm not going to say those things. I'm not going to do these things. And then, 6 weeks down the road or something, you find that you said the same thing, to your mate or to someone or to yourself, or something arises that you didn't expect. And you say, oh, there's that same mistake I keep making. But I resolve myself to do it. So I resolve again, I apply the remedy again, and I resolve myself not to do it again. So we keep repeating this, and slowly, 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 we begin to purify, and we really do change. And then those events come up, the opportunity for those events come up, but they just completely go through us. They don't stay within us. It doesn't register. A simple example of this might be something that we've all gone through. We get distracted through seeing somebody who might be very attractive to us. And one attraction thought turns into another attraction thought, and before you know it, we're starting to have all these fantasies and so on. So, and then we go down this path, and it can cause us, some frustration, anxiety, confusion, and cause some jealousy and some envy, and a lot of different things can come as a result of this. But these things keep coming up. We're bombarded with these things on television, images of attraction, in magazines that we see, on the internet, on our phones, on the internet, and everything. All these things all have these attractive images and thoughtfulness behind them, because they're trying to hook us onto this kind of stuff. I think you know what I'm talking about. So after a period of time of really applying ourselves, that we don't even, it doesn't register with us anymore. We just say, oh, you don't even think about it. You just pass right through it. You're not going to spend the time that you might have used to spend to go investigate things and start chasing these images and start chasing these thoughts around and so on. So I'm sure there's many other circumstances like that you can think of, and we can talk about them. If you have something that you want to discuss, we can consider that and talk about that to make the examples come alive for you. But the point is that we exhaust all the permutations of it and we say, here's the remedy for it. I don't need to do this anymore. I need to keep my mind focused on my true nature, which is my Buddha nature, that simplicity, that wholeness, that wholesomeness that I really treasure, and that's what I really want to be. So this resolve is to do that. And as we do that, we begin to build up this protection for us, this mind protection for ourselves. And as a matter of fact, mantra, the word mantra is a Sanskrit word. And the definition of that Sanskrit word mantra is mind protection. While we're chanting, if we're doing that, we're doing it properly, we're focused mindfully, one-pointedly on that mantra. And there's no other space, there's no other place for any other kinds of thought except the meaning of that mantra. So that's a way of purifying the mind. That's a way of cleansing the mind, focusing the mind, and so on. So that mind protection is brought about through our repeatedly doing the mantras, and then it's protecting our mind, and then that becomes a reliance. This is the fourth power, is the reliance on the practice, the reliance on the mantra, that we can do that. So if we do something that is counter, is non unwholesome, and we want to purify it, and if we engage right away into the mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, or this mantra Vajrasattva, or Medicine Buddha, or Green Tara, so many different mantras that we can use for a given particular set of circumstances, then we find that very quickly we purify that, and we're not chasing the unwholesomeness of what that thought was and so on. So these four powers are the power of remorse, the power of remedy, the power of resolve, and the power of reliance, the reliance on the practice, reliance on the system, reliance on the mantra itself. So we come back over this, talk about this many times. This whole discussion, this whole practice of Vajrasattva is very important and is a core teaching on the Nundro practices, which are the preliminary practices, the uncommon preliminary practices, which are very, very, very powerful. So Vajrasattva itself, Vajra means indestructible, indestructible wisdom. Sat is a being. Sat means being. S-A-T means being in Sanskrit. And Sattva is a holy being. So indestructible holy being is Vajrasattva, indestructible holy being. So as we are human beings and we are engaging on a path to purify ourselves, to become, ultimately to become Buddha, we have to go through these stages in order to do that, stages of purification. And one of the early visualizations that we take in this process is as Vajrasattva, that we want to become Vajrasattva, this indestructible holy being, to put ourselves on this path of purification, to be able to get through these different levels to get to become a Buddha. So it's important to make this connection, to see ourselves as these different Buddhas, but in particular right now, this Vajrasattva, to see ourselves as being this Buddha of purification who's on the path to do that. We won't perfect that right now. It'll take some time. It may take years, it may take lifetimes. But when we start, that's the beginning of a new life, right? That's we talked about last week, we talked about that there's a death and there's a rebirth. When we make changes in our lives from our practices, it's like being born again. And we're not going to go back to the old way that we used to think of things. So we're cleaning up those defilements, we're purifying those defilements and so on, and we emerge as these deities, and in this case, Vajrasattva. So, indestructible holy being, Vajrasattva. So, this process of being able to purify ourselves is done through this confession. That by reciting this mantra is a confession that we are ordinary beings in the beginning, and that we're asking for help. And the help that we're asking for really comes from within ourselves. And we're learning to recognize that wisdom and that skillful means that we need to purify ourselves is within ourselves. It's a matter of removing the obscurations of all our preconceived ideas and so on, our rationalizations, to be able to get to this point of that wisdom. And then this wisdom comes up and we find out, oh, yes, I am Vajrasattva. And yes, I can purify myself. Oh, and yes, I've made a mistake, but I've made that mistake over and over again. And here I am. I'm making it again. I'm confessing it again for how many different times I've been doing this. But okay, that's part of my human nature. And I have to, it's very deeply embedded, and I need to continually purify that. So I always need to be applying these four powers over and over and over again to many times the same things over and over and over again. So we can't allow ourselves to become discouraged. We have to have, that's why we come together as a Sangha, to be able to support each other in this, because we're all going through our purification of our defilements to whatever level we are. And we can take vacations and we come back and now those defilements have taken root again. Our old bad habits have popped up. So we can't become discouraged with that. We've got to say, oh, I got to begin at the beginning. I go through very quickly to get back to where I was when I took my vacation and so on. So we see that it's all like this wheel. It's like this spiral and so on, and see this as a gift. This is part of the Dharma teaching. This is part of the visualization of understanding how we do things as human beings, how we learn and how we change and so on. So this is all good stuff. It requires work, it requires effort, it requires commitment, but the reward is our purification, is our liberation from our suffering. This is really what we're trying to do, to liberate ourselves from suffering and to especially, help other beings to remove them, to liberate them from suffering. We're not doing that by giving them some kind of a spell or something like that, but we are exposing them through the achievement that we have made ourselves. That becomes an inspiration to them. And if they're really interested, they may start asking you some questions. Whether you start talking to them without them asking you, what you're doing and why it is that you are the way you are, that you've changed and you really seem to be a more happier and patient person now because you've been doing these things. If you want to engage in that conversation with them, you can, but you got to be careful that you don't push people away, because if they're not ready to hear it, it's just going to be some mumbo jumbo to them, and they're going to rationalize that as being, some kind of a, brainwashing that you're trying to foist on them, that you become brainwashed or something like that. So we have to be a little bit protective of the way in which we share this with people. We want to share it with people, and if their sincerity is there to really want to learn it and take it in, we'll do everything we can to help them. But we just don't want to go knocking on doors and talking to people that we don't know and just start talking till we're blue in the face and their eyes have rolled back in their heads and they can't hear it anymore. So we have to be judicious with what it is that we do. We have to be careful the way in which we talk about these things. But nevertheless, we have to keep practicing. And this is, again, why our Sangha is so important, because we support each other in this kind of a complex web of purification. So I want to show you first, let's show you the screen share here for the, I hope you all can see this. Oh, there we go. Okay. Is this big enough that you can read it? I know some of you might be on a smartphone and maybe the screen isn't big enough. This is on page, I got this bar in my way. I can't. Page 10 in our 101 practice book. It's on page 10. This is the 100-syllable purification mantra of Vajrasattva. If you don't have this book and you have the Deity Yoga book, this mantra and its translation is on page 88 in the Deity Yoga book, the Dharma Surya Deity Yoga book. So right now, we're just going to concentrate on the English translation. So this English translation says, Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realizations of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. So let's go over this a little bit. Talk about this, and if anybody has any questions, please just turn on your microphone and speak right up. So Om means the enlightened body, speech, and mind of Vajrasattva. We are saying this to ourselves. Vajrasattva is within ourselves. We are trying to wake up our attention, our realization that we are Vajrasattva. Among all these other Buddhas. We are all these other Buddhas as well. These are meditational Buddhas. So the body, speech, and mind of Vajrasattva. Samaya, this word here, means the vow taker. That I have taken a vow to purify myself. Vajrasattva means the indestructible Holy One. The indestructible holy being, a holy indestructible being. So, and I've taken a vow to bring that to fruition. So, Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Now it says, help to protect my vow to purify myself. Vajrasattva, help me to protect this. May you remain firm with me. That we are awakening our realization that Vajrasattva is within ourselves, and may that remain firm with me to purify myself, that we're making this commitment ourselves to ourselves in order that we may purify ourselves, to realize that we have committed these confusions and so on, these defilements, and that we want to be able to purify them. So may Vajrasattva protect my vow to purify myself. And that means me as Vajrasattva. It's not out there, it's within ourselves. May you remain firm with me, because I'm going to test you. I am going to push against you. I am going to try and connive and do all kinds of things to rationalize my bad behavior, because it's more fun. I've gotten away with so much in my life. Things that I've done that I now am sorry that I did, I wish I didn't do. And in the future, I hope that I never have to do these things again. I want to be protected from these. So Vajrasattva, will you be firm with me? So this is talking to ourselves as Vajrasattva. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Bring this to fruition. Grant me the complete satisfaction that I'm able to do this, that I'm able to purify myself, and grow with me. Because as I continue along my path of purification, new things are going to open up that I'd never realized before. And as I'm growing as a spiritual human being, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be situations that I didn't anticipate. So may you grow with me as I grow. And of course, Vajrasattva is a Buddha, is totally perfect within ourselves. And indeed, Vajrasattva will do that. Be loving towards me. So have the grace for me. Show your wisdom for me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. So those things that I think that are normal, we're going to go beyond those things. We're going into what might be called the metaphysical or the spiritual, or things that we don't encounter with our ordinary physical body, with our intellectual mind, but things that we encounter as being a spiritual being. And we find that we have powers beyond our body and our ordinary phenomenal nature. That we have this true nature within ourselves. We have this Buddha nature within ourselves. So grant me the attainments to master those powers. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind, heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. So when we go Om, Ah, Hong, body, speech, and mind, may my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones, all the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas. We're saying that everything that I do with my physical body, everything I do with my intellectual brain, and everything I do with my spiritual heart becomes the deeds of Vajrasattva, becomes the deeds of the fruition of this purification. And because we have purified that which has been defiled, this is great wisdom. We learn more from our mistakes than if we did everything perfectly good without realizing it. But when we make mistakes and have to work our way through them, we learn more about these things. So wisdom is knowing what the mistakes are, why you commit the mistakes, how you can remedy the mistakes, and how you can maintain, you can resolve and use the system as a reliance to not make those mistakes again. So it says, show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind, and make my mind, heart good, virtuous, and auspicious, that I may become as pure as the Buddhas, as the great bodhisattvas. So then revel in the joys, revel in the bliss of the four joys. So the four joys, there's different levels of the four joys. But right now we can say the four joys are the four vast, immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. So we recite that prayer every day. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So those are the four immeasurable vast qualities of bodhicitta. Make my mind, heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, or we could say bodhicitta. Revel in the bliss of bodhicitta. If we are in this mode of purified behavior, of purified thought, of purified existence, then it's just bliss. It's just very joyful, very blissful. May I revel in that bliss. O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. So here we're saying, O Blessed One, this Buddha, this Vajrasattva, which is the essence within me, the essence of my true nature. This is who I really am, the Buddha, all-knowing, awakened. This is who I really am, but we have allowed ourselves to become contaminated with all these confused thoughts and behaviors and emotions and all these kinds of things. But when we can remove all those, when we can separate ourselves or just simply remove those things from our heart center, then we realize that our true nature is this pure goodness. So, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me, this is who I am. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realizations of the indestructible nature. Do not abandon me. Stay with me. Grant me the realizations of the indestructible nature, this indestructible nature of Vajrasattva, that this cannot be destroyed. We've been born many times. We've died many times. We have done so many things that would you might think would destroy the core of who we are. Other beings who have done worse things than we have done in our lifetime, you would imagine that they are incorrigible, that they're unredeemable, but at their core, they still have this indestructible nature. They may have these layers of defilements on top of them from the terrible things that they've done, but the core is still indestructible nature, this purity that we can get to. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. May I become indivisible with you. When we say non-duality, then I signify my unity with non-duality. Make me one with you. May I become non-dual. If I'm dual, then there is good and there is bad. There is black and there is white. There is confusion and there is wisdom. There's all these different dualities and so on. But to be one with this means that we are purified, that we are in the essence of our indestructible nature. May I be one with you. May I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Ah is this syllable. We go om, ah, hum. Ah is the syllable of cutting through dualistic nature. I'm going to turn this off for a second here. Cutting through dualism. If we've got all this dualism, we've got all these things happening and so on, to cut through that and that everything just all comes together. Everything's on the path together. And on the path, there's no difference. There's no duality. It's all one thing. We see that all these different things that we thought of as dual were always one thing in their essence. But we allowed them to be two things, good and bad, wisdom and ignorance, and so on like that. We're cutting through that duality to make everything one. So this is Vajrasattva. And the same thing is applied to all the other Buddhas. The same formula of using the deity in order to be able to purify that which we're using that deity for, that we are awakening that particular aspect of our true nature to be able to purify. Maybe it's fearfulness. Maybe it's we're accident prone. Maybe we're always getting sick. Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe it's attachment. All these different things, and specific deities are there for us to work on that particular emotion or that particular cause of confusion and so on. So Vajrasattva is generally, being used here as to be able to cut through all these defilements, to cut through. So using that illustration and using this, sometimes you're in a meditation and you're going through this process of thinking about this, of contemplating this, and then it just becomes so powerful that you say, I just got to cut through this, and you literally take your arm like this and do that. I'm giving you permission to do these things. This is what we need to do. When we become the deity, we need to be able to visualize ourselves as the deity. The color of the deity, the different features of the deity, the position, the body position of the deity, what the deity's hand mudras are in, what the implements the deity is holding, and so on. These are the tools to be able to purify oneself with whatever deity we're talking about. So using these gestures is very important. And you will find that, one gesture, one picture, tells 1,000 words, right? One picture tells, the story of 1,000 words, however that saying goes. And it's true. And we can see that. And as we develop our one-pointed mindfulness, it gets so thick. You can see it. You can see the causes. You can experience this. You see what's going on in your intellectual mind and how it's blocking up your heart. But then you can cut through that intellectual mind and bam, the heart pops open. It's like that key that fits into the lock that we've talked about so many times, about opening up the heart center, opening up our spirituality. Are there any questions about any of this? Any thoughts about this? Is it making some sense? Okay, no comments. All right, well then we'll keep moving on. And we're going to go to this next image because, okay, so now here is an image. How do I get rid of that? Okay. Can you see this image? This is Vajrasattva here in the center. And Vajrasattva has a single body. He's got a white body showing his purification. Let me see. Wait a minute. Excuse me 1 second. All right. Can you see this dark screen right now?
I'm getting a picture of you, Lance.
You're just getting me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I'm seeing. It's just you.
Okay. All right. Zoom has changed something that has made it. I'm not able to show photos like I used to be able to. I don't know why. They changed something a few weeks ago. But anyhow, sorry for that interruption there. Come on. Oh, I gotta go here. I gotta go. That's not what I want. Okay. Okay. Are we back? Can you see this image of Vajrasattva on the picture now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. Sorry for this. All right. So here is Vajrasattva. So this is an image of a meditational deity. This deity is within ourselves, and it is given this anthropomorphic form so that we can kind of wrap our heads around it, our intellect around it. But this is a spiritual being. This is a meditational deity. So he's got a white body representing his purity and so on, and he's sitting on a lotus pedestal. We've talked about that before, that he's coming from defilement and being reborn as this pure being, and he's holding a dorje, a vajra, here at his heart with his right hand, and his left hand he's holding the bell, the ganto or the dilbu, in his left hand like this at his waist, and he's wearing a crown. And this crown has 5 jewels in it, and the 5 jewels represent the 5 Buddha families. So we talked about Ascobia, Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, Amagog City, and Varanchana. So this is the crown on which he wears this. They are the 5 Buddha families of which he is a part of that. And this is all within ourselves. And he is sitting here, his right leg is slightly extended, and his big toe is on the top of our head at the aperture of, it's called the Brahma atmosphere, aperture at the crown of our head, which is the opening that goes through the center channel of our heart, the center channel that goes down through our body, parallel to our spine. So this is the image of Vajrasattva. And then he is sitting on top of us. This here is showing an ordinary human being who is in the meditative position, and he's visualizing that he's got a vajra, this indestructible vajra, on the crown of his head, and that Vajrasattva, and then that vajra turns into Vajrasattva and becomes this indestructible wisdom that's on the side of his head. And this mantra is going around the ordinary being, us as the meditator, and it is radiating in all directions. And it's going to all the Buddhas over here, and it's going to all the Bodhisattvas over here, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And this is circular. It's coming back to him. It goes out and comes right back to him. And then these 5 Buddha families are represented up here. Here's are the 5 male deities and the 5 female deities, and their seed syllables. And so their wisdom is visualized as light that is emanating through these seed syllables. Here is an Om, here is a Hung, here is a Shri, here, this is a Tam, this is a Shri, and this is an Ah. And so this is all represented as light, and all comes into this wish-fulfilling vase, that's full of Amrita. And so what we're doing is we're trying to visualize this all coming together within ourselves during our meditation. So it's very powerful to be able to recognize this and to be able to remember all this. So I can send you this in an email so that you can, on WhatsApp, and if you want to print it, you can print it. If you come to the center, I can give it to you sometime. And so you've got this image. So we're visualizing Vajrasattva as a human being who is within us, but it's just a means by which we can kind of wrap our intellectual head around this and see ourselves as Vajrasattva, becoming Vajrasattva. Okay, I'm going to come back. So now we come back to this mantra. So here now, come on. Yeah, so now here is the mantra in Sanskrit. So if you're looking at page 9 in the 101 book, or in page 88 in the Deity Yoga book, here is the 100-syllable purification mantra. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manu Palaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Drista Dredo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsume Sitsan Shriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bawa Maha Samaya Sattva Ha. So you can apply each one of those sentences to the English translation, and if to be able to see that it's a direct translation of what these sentences, what these words are saying, but in the Sanskrit. So this is what we recite. We can recite it in English. We should memorize it in English as well as the Sanskrit, because in the English we understand the meaning, but in the Sanskrit we have the spiritual experience with it in the Sanskrit. So if you've got beads, if you've got your meditation beads right now and you want to use your meditation beads, now we start, of course, with the first bead, and we begin to recite this. So we can chant this, we can use a melody where we kind of sing it, or we can just recite it. So I think in the beginning, it's much easier to learn this with the melody, because the melody supports the sentence structure, and we're able to string the sounds together. Our brain is able to make a connection, to make a musical connection with the vibration of the sounds of the syllables in a music form. So it goes like this. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Drista Dredo Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Supo Kayo Me Bawa Anuraktu Me Bawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsame Sitsantriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ha. So We need to be able to, we're going to recite this now for quite a while. We're going to go through and try and do a mile around. I don't think we'll get all the way through it. But first, let's do the, I want to, there we go. So first, let's do it in the English. Recite the English with me, please. So we say, Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realizations of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Repeat this again in English twice. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realizations of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Now in Sanskrit. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsantriya Kuruhung Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Sattvaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsantriya Kuruhung Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Sattvaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsantriya Kuruhung Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Sattvaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuruhong Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu me bhava, sara siddhi me prayatsa, sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha, samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha, samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha, samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha, samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha, samaya satwaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, Suto kayo me bhava, Supo kayo me bhava, Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, sitsan triya kuru hong. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, Sara tada gata, bajra mame munsa, bajri bhava maha samaya satwaha. Okay, so we can take a drink of water here or something, take a short little break. Anybody have questions or comments? Does everybody have the book? Because I turned off the screen share so we could see each other. So I presume that everyone has the book, so you can follow that. What do you think of this melody? Do you like this melody? Yeah. Kate says yes. Brendan, I'm curious what you have to say about it because this might be the first time you've been exposed to this. What do you think of this?
It is the first time I've been exposed to this. I'm trying to figure out what the direct translation of ha 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 ho is.
Those
And
are
I'm
the
being
four. Those are
serious.
the four joys.
Those are the four. Okay, got it. Because
joys.
it doesn't seem to translate into the English the way I would understand it.
Well, those are the four joys. Ha 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 ha.
Got it.
That's
Okay,
a joyful noise.
got it. Thank you. That makes sense now.
How about the melody? Do you find the melody, attractive to you?
I do. I do.
Good.
I also appreciate what you were talking about earlier about protecting us from non-virtuous things.
Yes. Are you thinking of something in particular? Or we just froze up?
The images and the thoughts video because I have internet bandwidth problems tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see. I can hear you now, and you put your.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'll keep my video down. No, it just reminded me that one thing I've read about in Buddhism is that seeing people and seeing things as they are, not as the internet would make them out to be, or movies would make them out to be. So one Buddhist even said, think of our intestines and our, we're just trying to see people not in some kind of fantasy image that the media creates for us. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, very good. Yes. And try and see the vibration of the heart center.
Yes, that yeah, very much so.
Yes. Very good. Gary or Tom, do you have any comments about this? Okay. Well, then I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead.
It's,
Come back to Kate.
I think that there's a rhythm to the melody.
Yes.
And I think that helps you to memorize it if you keep doing it over and over. I don't have my mala beads with me, but I don't know how many times we did it, but we did it quite a few times. But
We did it 21 times.
21 times. Well, not quite a mile around, but it's
Right. Well, that was the first installment. We're gonna do a few
first
more.
installment. Okay.
We're gonna do a few more. So
Okay.
I invite you to use the Lama counting technique. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So on your left hand, you can do that, and maybe your right hand, you can count the number of repetitions of 7. So you can see, you can count that way if you want to, help your mindfulness. So that's what the beads are for, to kind of automatically be able to keep us focused on being able to do an accumulation. And we say, I'm going to accumulate a mile around 108 recitations of the mantra. And so the mala beads help us to do that. And that's where, if we didn't have the mala beads, we might get to 21 and say, oh, that must have been a mala round. I'm done. But there's a big difference between doing 21 and 108. And it's through the repetition that we are, we're harmonizing with that vibration. Kate, you had something you wanted to add?
Well, I had a question I wanted to ask. Since Vajrasattva is a peaceful deity, right?
Yes.
That means this is one of the mantras that we could recite even if we don't have the empowerment, correct?
Oh, exactly. That's why I'm showing it to you. I'm introducing it to you. Yes. So you can recite this mantra. It's very good, and you have a general idea of what it means. So yes, thank you. Okay, so now we'll go back. Let's go back to the English, and recite the English 3 times, and then carry on with the Sanskrit. So this is the same Sanskrit that the Buddha taught in. This wasn't a conversational language, it was a teaching language. And it wasn't written at the time that the Buddha taught it. There was no alphabet or anything like that. It was a spoken language. So those vibrations never go away. It's indestructible. So we are aligning ourselves with those vibrations. That's why it's important to do this and important to do it out loud. And you can see I'm doing it with the full force of my voice I'm not shouting it, but I am doing it full-throated. And I invite everybody to do that. In the beginning, we might be a little bit shy. We don't have a particular good, singing voice or something like that. Nobody's paying attention to your voice, so allow yourself to vibrate. Allow yourself to do that. It's a great gift that you give yourself by doing that. So we begin with the English translation. We'll do 3 times, then we'll go into the Sanskrit. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the 4 joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the 4 joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the 4 joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Drista Dredo Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsantriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarvatada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsantriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Drista Dredo Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anuraktu me bhava, sara siddhi me prayatsa, sara karma sitsa me, sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan, sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sarasiddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sitsa me Sitsan triya kuruham. Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa dristadredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava, Sara siddhi me prayatsa, Sara karma sutsa me, Sitsantriya kuruham, ha 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 ho Bhagavan, Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava Sara siddhi me prayatsa Sara karma sutsa me Sitsantriya kuruham ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara tada gata bajra mame mansa bajri bhava maha samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa drista dredo me bhava Sutokayo me bhava Supokayo me bhava Anuraktu me bhava, sara siddhi me prayatsa, sara karma sitsa me, sitsan shriya kuruham. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, sara tada gata, bhajra mame mansa, bhajri bhava maha, samaya satvaha. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya, Vajrasattva tenopa, drista dredo me bhava, suto kayo me bhava, supo kayo me bhava, anuraktu me bhava, sara siddhi me prayatsa, sara karma sitsa me, sitsan shriya kuruham. Ha 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 ho bhagavan, sara tada gata, bhajra mame mansa, bhajri bhava maha, samaya satwa. Okay, that was 59, half of a mile around. So any thoughts, questions? So this is very powerful. There have been times when I have come home from work or when I was working or something, and something was happening in my family or something that was happening within myself that was very upsetting. And I just couldn't think of anything else. I was just really obsessed with whatever that emotion was or group of emotions. So I would come into my meditation room, and I would do this recitation, and I might do it 3 times. So each time, if you do it very fast, you can do it in 25 minutes. So I would do 3 rounds, which was like an hour and a half almost of doing this. I was completely blown away from whatever that was upsetting me. I don't remember what it was. It doesn't matter what it was. It was just a figment of my imagination. And I was purified of whatever that obsession was. So that's the power that this has. Now, it takes time. It takes effort. It takes commitment. We can come home from work after a bad day at work, and we can go to the refrigerator and get out a couple of beers. We can go to the bottle and pour a couple of stiff drinks. We can light up a joint. We can do many different things. We can take different kinds of pills that the doctor prescribes to us or that we buy illegally or something like that, that will help to blow away whatever's bothering us, which is temporary. But this is based on the idea that all this phenomenal nature is all concocted within our brain, all concocted within our mind, is all temporary. And that we're the ones who make this happen and who attach to this. And by using this formula of this kind of practice, this kind of recitation, cuts those bonds that are locking us up with those attachments to our fear, to our obsession, to our confusion, and so on. So it's worth the effort to do this naturally. We find that this is helping us to do this naturally. Whatever those drugs can do for us, whatever that liquor can do for us, we can do naturally ourselves. And it's more substantial. It stays with us. We can come back and we can repeat it over and over again without a hangover, without the bad side effects of using the drugs or alcohol or whatever like that. So this is a lifestyle change. This is our lifestyle, saying, I'm not going to do those things anymore. My lifestyle now includes meditation. My lifestyle now includes mantra recitation, includes contemplation, includes doing these practices and study. This is what my life changes to now. I become on the on the path to a practice to attain a realization of my true self, who I truly am. And that true self is a Buddha, is an awakened one. And that I realize all things and that everything I do is for the benefit of other beings, not for my own selfish aggrandizement. I'm doing it for other beings. So this is a great primal cause for our life to be, instead of being to fill our bank accounts or to get a new car or whatever it is that we want to do, that we go chasing after so much. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, so then we'll go to our dedication prayers. And Gary, in your book, please, it's page 157. So we're at the dedication prayer, the lineage dedication prayer. So we recite in English. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormalor Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Drikumpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessings of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it ever increase and not decline. May it ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikumpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. And now we read the dedication prayer by Lord Jigden Sumgun. Lord Jigden Sumgun is the founder of this lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage, over 800 years ago. So this is the prayer that he composed for dedication. So we recite this. It's not in your book, Gary, so you'll probably remember it as we chant it. Glorious, holy, venerable, kind root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Mars and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teaching, by the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lance. That was a good class.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Brendan, thank you.
Lance.
Tom, thank you.
Lance.
Very
That's a
good.
great practice. You guys is really that's one that you should just do over and over and over again. You could never do it too much.
Yes. So next week is the last week of this cycle, and we will. So I haven't thought about what we're going to do yet. If anybody has a request, please let me know. But it'll be something to do with our practice to tie it together at the very least. And then we'll take a break over the holidays and we'll get back after the first of the year. So, and we'll start a new cycle over and we'll start from the beginning and start with talking about the life of the Buddha. And for those who haven't heard it before at all, and those that are hearing it after many times, but being able to apply what you've been able to learn over these many weeks and sessions to the life of the Buddha and see how all this has all come together. So, all right. Thank you all very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right,
Right.
good
Thank
week.
you.
Today's
Everyone.
Monday, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's Monday.
Have a good weekend anyway. So.
All right. Thank you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Sure.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.